Hello, viewers. Now, I know I always say how excited I am about each of our guests. Well, it's true, and Meg is no different. She is amazing. She's an artist, a founder, an executive coach, a transformational executive coach. But even more than that, we share something personal and transformational in common, a health crisis that led to post-traumatic growth, a term I use frequently, and so does she. It's given us both a whole new perspective, and we'll talk about that because today Meg is going to share with us how she came to know her worth and command her value in a whole new way. Welcome, Meg. It's great to have you here with us.
Thank you, Charlene. I'm so happy to be here. And I want to thank you for this topic and this conversation, because when I was thinking about having this conversation with you and sort of doing a little bit of reflecting about times in my life when I've had to claim my worth and know my value, I came to an insight that I didn't have before. It's a brand new understanding, which is that this has actually been a theme, a big theme for me throughout my whole life. And I realized that every single time I expanded into a bigger chapter, every time I grew in my life, that growth started with me looking around at my circumstances, either, what I'd been handed or circumstances I'd created, and admitting to myself that I wanted something more.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And I've realized now that those moments took two things to be able to do that. Number one is like believing in my worth, believing that I'm capable, believing that I deserve, and then a little bit of courage to walk away from what I have in order to step into something that's even more aligned with my highest good, my truth, bigger dream.
Right. I love the fact that you talk about expanding yourself, because so many people it's almost like they're afraid of themselves, right? They're afraid to expand or to be bigger. Viewers, you guys are going to love Meg, not just because I love Meg, but you're just going to hear how amazing she really is. And I'm just so excited that Meg is with us. And, I love all of our guests, but there's some guests that just touch me in a way that just feeds my soul. And Meg, you're one of those one of those people for me.
Thank you.
So, Meg, I always start with everybody saying, tell us about yourself, your origin story, but that doesn't mean you have to start at birth. You can start wherever you want to start, but we just want to know a little bit more about you.
Thanks, Charlene. Well, I think to be true to the theme of the show, I'd love to just share some examples in my life when I did claim my value,
Yes.
So when I chose to be an artist, so my currently I am an executive coach and I serve CEOs and founders and senior leaders to increase their value to their business, their relationships, and themselves and the world. And but before that, I was an actor and a performer.
Yes.
And when I decided to pursue a career in the arts, that flew in the face of all the messaging I'd gotten from society and my family about how to have a sensible, happy life. But I knew deep down that I didn't want to look back on my life and say, and be wondering what would have happened if I'd followed my dreams, And so I had to make what was important to me more important than what other people found important. I had to stay in integrity with what I knew was valuable to me, and instead of following what everyone else thought. So that was a disruptive moment where I said, I'm going to follow my own heart here about what's valuable for me. And then, I took it really far. I got an MFA, got an agent, started working in New York City, and I did it. I ended up being able to support myself for over a decade as a working artist. And
congratulations, because that's not that easy to do.
It's not that everyone was right. It is really hard, but I had an amazing time in a lot of what I was doing. Just having succeeded to do that is one thing, but then some of the work I did was really expanding and I'm really proud of.
Mhm.
I also began towards the end of that decade to start to feel a little bit of that question around, are the things that I'm spending my time on really worthy of all that I have to offer?
Mhm.
And I wanted a career in the arts. To do that, to be able to afford that, you do have to have a career in the industry as well. So there's art, there's industry. I did a lot of commercial
Mhm.
work to support my sort of art habit. And, as a woman in the entertainment industry, I wasn't always comfortable with how the industry saw me and my worth.
What does
I
that
was
mean, Meg? Can you give us more detail that where you're comfortable talking about?
the industry itself is often tries to reduce people into
Mhm.
sort of types, and
Absolutely.
um, a lot of the times it's sort of senseless. Like, I may be, you know, um, talented enough for the role, but you're too tall or too short or too young or too old, or you're not always being rewarded for who you are on the inside.
Right.
It's just such a
Mhm.
outward focused industry.
Right. I get it just because, having had a long corporate career, and being a Black female in that space, it's not the same as acting, but I'd be lying if I said that when I walked out of the door every day, there wasn't a persona that I had to put on so that I met whatever qualifications people felt that I needed to have,
Yeah.
is my
Yes.
hair straight enough? Am I dressed appropriately? Am I enunciating the way they think I should enunciate? Am I
Mhm.
quiet when I should be quiet? So I could go on and on, but my point is that I get your point.
Yeah, thank you, Charlene. I feel really understood. Thank you. Yeah, and with casting and whatnot, you're bringing your truth to it, hopefully, but you're also fulfilling someone else's vision
Right.
of a story and a role. And I just started to feel like I wanted more agency about
Mhm.
what I did, when I did it, and the quality there. And then, as you know, I had a major health crisis when I was pregnant. I was diagnosed with breast cancer 3 weeks after finding out I was pregnant,
Oh my God.
which was, as you can imagine, a crazy, crazy time. I was lucky. They caught the cancer early. I caught it early. Um, and so my prognosis was really good, and they were
Mhm.
able to treat me safely while I carried the baby. So I did receive chemo during pregnancy, which was
I can't imagine how scary
it was
that
it was
is.
so scary. It was so scary. I have so much respect for the medical community,
Mhm.
gratitude for health insurance, but then also so much respect for the wisdom and the intelligence of the body. My body not only knows how to construct another whole body inside of it, but
Right.
also knows how to keep that body safe from toxins.
Mhm.
The chemotherapy that was in my blood, the placenta blocked all of those harmful chemicals. My son was born with a full head of hair. I was bald.
Oh, that's
So
beautiful.
it was a miraculous time. It was a obviously challenging time, but it was profound in many, many ways. And I emerged from that experience with a very forever changed relationship to my time,
Mhm.
and the tolerance I had for any kind of work that wasn't deeply meaningful for me went
Mhm.
way down. I just couldn't tolerate spending any time away from my baby, or just knowing how short life is. I wasn't able to do work that didn't feel worthy of my whole self. And so that really changed the equation for me. And right around that time, I also started coaching, just peer-based coaching other women who were pregnant with cancer through this wonderful organization called Hope for Two, the Hope for Two Network.
Oh my gosh.
And they supported me when I was going through it. So in those coaching conversations, something new came alive for me,
Mhm.
that was different and really, really compelling, in those coaching conversations. And so I followed that thread, and and sort of leaned into coaching a little bit more broadly and began offering coaching for business people through the lens of the arts. So using theater tools to help business people show up more authentically, tell their story, interface with their inner narrative in a deeper way, connect, listen differently, be spontaneous, think on their feet, be more expressive. There's actually so many tools from the arts that really work in the corporate space these days. It's really gratifying and exciting to be serving in this time. And that work became so compelling that eventually I just let go of the acting work that couldn't hold a candle to some of this new work that I was doing. That felt like I was really, really making a difference in a direct way.
But much like you, I have any number of people at any given time that I'm talking to because they have cancer and they're lost. And I recognize that when I was going through my cancer battle, I had means, I had support, and I was still scared.
We're all going through uncertainty. We're all going through change and uncertainty. And so I do believe, Charlene, that I bring to bear that post-traumatic growth, that resilience through the unknown, to support my clients through all the changes that come their way, whether they're existential, whether they're huge, whether they're a little bit smaller. For me, anytime we are faced with something that asks us to grow, having a thought partner, having someone to hold space for what it means for you and to really integrate all the changes that are happening into your life, to sit with what's going on internally, it's just essential. It's essential. And it could be a business problem, it could be a personal problem, but uncertainty is a fact.
Meg, talk to us a little bit. You've talked about your health crisis, which I just can't imagine, going through when you are carrying another being is, but tell us now, what does meaning and value and worth mean to you now? Or rather, I really rephrase that. What does worth and value mean to you now versus before?
Knowing so intimately how short life is and how precious life is, that's one of the ways we can make meaning from these things that happen to us that we can't control. And one of the big lessons I took is to be present. When I was before I had the cancer diagnosis, I was just a couple weeks pregnant, but I was already imagining the perfect birth plan and all this other. And when I got the diagnosis, I had to throw all of that away. And there was a lot about what I thought it was going to be like to be pregnant and then to be a mom that I had to just let go of. But it was an amazing lesson in letting go, which parenting is about letting go. From the minute they're born, you just got to get better and better at it. And the one thing we have is just this moment with each other. And so it became crucial to me to be as present as possible for each moment of my son's life, for my life. I felt like a responsibility to the people who aren't lucky, who don't get it, catch it early.
Right.
This is all I have is this moment right now. And so and time is the only thing we can't make more of. We can make more money, we can make, but we don't get to make more time. And so being really intentional about where you spend your time.
And I always say, when people ask me how my life is different now, there are so many ways, but one of the things I always say is that I am very intentional on how I spend my time and how I spend my energy. And that's just hugely important. And I think the sooner everybody can get there, the better, and I really commend you for the work that you're doing with conscious leadership, because it's always been amazing to me that it's taken so long for people to understand that you can care about people, you can care about things, and make a profit at the same time. They're not mutually exclusive unless you make them that way.
That's right. That's right.
You know,
Yeah.
so really congratulations on that. So Meg, you know, the name of the show is Know Your Worth, Command Your Value. So
Mhm.
I have to ask you, you know, what advice would you give someone at any stage in their career or their life to help them know their worth, but then take the action to command their value in whatever way that that means to you?
I love this question so much. Well, first of all, knowing your worth involves knowing yourself.
Yes.
And it's one of the most delicious joys of my life to support my clients to get to know themselves better, because that kind of confidence to command your value comes from loving and accepting yourself exactly as you are right now, right? And
Mhm.
you can't accept yourself if you don't know yourself. So that deep
Right.
inquiry into who am I? So any kind of practices you can put into place to get to know yourself better,
Mhm.
self-reflection, contemplation, hear how you're speaking to yourself.
Yes. Yes. That
Right?
negative self-talk
That's
makes me
right.
crazy that people engage in themselves in.
That's right. That's right. And you know, not we're usually not taught how to listen to ourselves on the
Mhm.
inside, and you know, often we internalize that negative voice is internalized messaging from other people that we've heard our whole lives, and we take it in and we don't examine it. We're not taught to examine it. And
Right.
so any practice you can put into place that creates space for you to really engage with how you're being internally with yourself and what are those voices in there, will generate that kind of self-compassion that is necessary to believe that you're worthy. Because if
Yes.
you're not worthy of your own love, how are you going to be worthy of anyone else's esteem or love? So that's number one. And then number two, once you you know really are feeling capable and in touch with your own worthiness,
Mhm.
um, that the courage to let go of what you have in order to move towards something bigger, something, a
Yes.
bigger dream, a better dream, or a truer dream. It doesn't have to be bigger. You know,
Mhm.
some of the leaders I coach, especially over the last couple of years, some of the conversations we were having, Charlene, were along the lines of, you know, I'm being considered for promotion. Am I allowed to just be happy where I'm at?
Right. Right.
And so giving permission to just
Mhm.
choose balance.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
More does
if
not
you're,
mean better,
that's right,
right?
that's right, that's right. So it's,
Mm.
but it does always take courage
Mhm.
to say, I'm letting go of what I have in order to move towards something that's calling me. So
Right.
that self-knowledge and then courage to take a risk and walk towards something new, something uncertain, would be what I would say you need.
Oh, that's fantastic. Meg, thank you for being with me this afternoon and for being here with our viewers. And, you know, I just want to remind our viewers that when you're getting negative inputs, you know, just because somebody tells you something that you're not or you're not enough does not mean that you have to believe it, own it, and become it. And Meg, before I close us out completely, how can people get in touch with you? How can they follow you, follow your journey and what you're doing?
LinkedIn is
Uh-huh.
sort of the best place for me right now.
Great,
Yeah.
great. Well, thank you again. And viewers, I hope you will continue to check out Meg, because this has been a quick conversation, but there are so many layers to Meg, and she is such a beautiful person that you can't help but be enriched by just being in her orbit. And before I sign off today, if no one has said this to you yet, let me be the first one to tell you today, you are enough.